flying high. You know how I feel. Sun in the sky. You know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by. You know how I feel. It's a new dawn. It's a new day, it's a new life. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.
Welcome, Goat Walker racing fans, to the first race of round 2 for the Veterans for Life Racing Truck Series playoffs here. It's race 13 of the season, but most importantly, it's the first race of the round of 8 here tonight. And tonight we are in the Irish Hills of Michigan at the Michigan International Speedway. Strap in tight and let's get ready to see if any of these top 8 advance to the championship round tonight, live here on V-Speed. And hello, everybody, and welcome here inside the broadcast booth. I'm Alec Martinez, and joining me to my left, over here, or right, I guess, will be Logan Thurkel. Logan, it's great to have you back here again. It's the second round of the playoffs, and man, this is going to be a very interesting race here tonight.
It's going to be a great race. You know, we're following up an excellent performance 2 weeks ago before Turkey Day with Jake Ham taking home that win. So, I mean, he's the only driver so far in this series to take 2 in the season. Can he make it 3 tonight? I don't know. We'll find out.
Hey, that's the question we're all looking to answer here. And remember, if he is able to win the race tonight, he will be able to advance to the championship round. And we'll take a look at our schedule here for tonight. And we see that we've already gone through more than half of it. And we're at last week at IRP, or 2 weeks ago, and now tonight at the Michigan International Speedway. And then next week we'll see these guys at Richmond, short track Friday night style, for the cutoff race for the championship on the 20th of December at the Darlington Raceway. And that should be fun. And Logan, I believe you got maybe something about these points here coming up here for entering tonight's race.
We do indeed. So obviously right now we've got up on screen, it's our round of 8 here. We've got McCarty, Ham, Drabick, Kostick, Gardner, DeSavino, Bontrager, and Justice all battling it out right now to make it to that championship 4. But it's, man, anything can happen. I know I say that every single week, but we got to cut this field in half. We have to determine a championship in 2 weeks.
That we do, and that'll be interesting to see. And how about we go to our Google Earth here to give you just an example of how big this track is here in, like I said, in the Irish Hills of Michigan, in Brooklyn, Michigan to be exact. And this track, 2 miles, a sister racetrack to the Auto Club Speedway in Southern California, or what was Southern California. The turns anywhere from 12 degrees of banking to 18 degrees of banking at the very top with progressive banking. And we expect, at least with the truck series, these trucks racing, expect a super speedway style of a race where bump drafting can kind of become a thing, but more than likely the slingshot kind of racing that we tend to see more often as qualifying has continued to go on. We'll send it over to Navy vet Jared Ashley for the performance of our national anthem and be right back for the starting grid for tonight's race.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And a beautiful performance, and thank you to Jared Ashley for that beautiful performance as the qualifying has concluded, and we are on to the starting grid here tonight for 65 laps of racing for round one, and it's Jacob Allingson rolling off here tonight with the Jam Printing and Promotions Polo Award to the number 27, and what a year he's had, and he's looking to get that first win. Be playoff spoiler with a 40.102. The top seed entering the playoffs, Levi McCarty with a 40.0103, just 1,000 separating the top two on the front row. Row number 2 has Craig Bontrager in the 49 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro, with Chance Taylor in the number 14 Chevy Silverado rolling off in 4th. Then Jamie Mullins, a non-playoff driver, rolling off in 5th, with George Jewell, another non-playoff driver, rolling off in 6th. 7th has Matt Knights in the 64, with Charles Phelps rolling off in 8th. And row number 5 will have Michael Kostek with Logan Sturgeon rounding out the top 10.
Back here in 11th, one of our other playoff drivers, we have Howie DiSavino in the 55 machine next to James Goshen in the 85. 13th will be Jeremy Gardner in that 42 machine. Keep an eye on him here tonight next to Jake Ham, 2 week ago winner in that 87. Stephen McDonald will roll off in 15th in that 68 machine next to Tyler Justice in the 33. In 17th, Patrick Drabick in the 07 next to Jacob Denson in 18th. Brandon Wallace in the 99 will start out here in 19th with no qualifying effort next to Jesse Necula in the 51.
And that'll round out the field here for a night of 20 trucks and what will be 65 laps, so around, well, that's not that great, but around 140 miles here tonight. And I think this race, we talked about the playoffs coming in here. 8 drivers here, and we'll name those drivers for you right now. And that is the 24 of Levi McCarty, the 87 Jake Ham, the 07 of Patrick Drabick, Michael Kostek, the 3 Jeremy Gardner, the 42, Howie DiSalvino in the 55, Craig Bontrager in the 49, and Tyler Justice, after narrowly escaping the round of 12, he points into the round of 8, and he's in the 33 truck tonight. And those 8 guys, with the win tonight, can punch their ticket into the championship race at Darlington in just 2 weeks' time. And all these guys, all those 8, have that on their mind tonight. So we're going to keep an eye on them, and we'll continue to remind you guys of who is in the championship and who will be trying to spoil that party, like Jacob Ellingson, who's rolling off in the pole tonight.
Yeah, and one thing to note, Alec, there is not a lot of separation at all in the points for this chase. So it could be mixed up at any given moment. We have 2 drivers that'll get locked in by a win and 2 drivers that have to point their way in. And it's a close race.
It sure is. Our race analysis, 65 laps, pit road speed at 55 miles per hour, 4 sets of tires available in the pits with 2 green-white checkers, and 100% fuel load with the Maconis fixed setup on these trucks. And what is going to be race number 13 on the year, and the first race of the round of 8 here. 8 drivers will be looking to punch their ticket into the championship round at Darlington in 2 weeks' time. It's Ellingson and McCarty into the restart zone. Will lead us green, and we're underway from the Michigan International Speedway. Full song down the backstretch as Levi McCarty pokes out a line to the inside of Jacob Ellingson in the field, mostly staying single or double file formation lap style. Is almost a little contact between Ellingson and the 24 of McCarty, and we expect to see a super speedway-like kind of racing with draft and side drafting, bump drafting being a factor as we see a big pack of trucks all clumped up in the middle of the pack, and you see a lot of our chasers can get caught up in what this racing kind of produces a big crash sometimes.
It very well could, as we almost saw 3 wide. We are looking at some 3 wide action now going through 1 and 2 right there in the middle of the pack. You see him just kind of narrowly avoiding any sort of contact, and back to double file down the back stretch.
They sure are, and they'll get single files. Gardner takes the nose away, or the air away off the nose with the 64 of Knights. Howie DiSavino in the 55 going high, wide, and handsome around the outside of Knights, and on the inside, that creamsicle machine is Patrick Drabick in the 07. He's almost had a scare a couple weeks ago at IRP where he got caught up and even flipped over and went on top of the safer barrier on the short tracks. So hoping he doesn't do that again tonight, but we're starting to see these guys just kind of be easy with it, but maybe starting to get settled in, although some of these guys cutting each other off and just trying to take every square inch they can of this racetrack.
That's going to be the name of the game here tonight. We have, like you said, about 140 miles. And it's going to be a battle. A lot of these drivers need to make it to that round of 4. And there's only 4 of them that can make it.
Sure is, and these are 2 chasers battling here together, and this is Craig Bontrager, and there's Levi McCarty, the top seed, entering this race, and McCarty started second. He's up to second as Ellingson was able to get by him once again and retake the lead, and has now pulled about a 4.5 to almost 5 chunk length lead over these top 2 who continue to race side by side, and it makes you wonder maybe if these 2 get to single file, they can run down Ellingson because of how strong the draft is in these trucks. And behind them, Logan Sturgeon had a heck of a start. He's already back up to 4th as we're on board with Levi McCarty, who relinquishes the spot to the 49 of Craig Bontrager. And now we'll see how much can these 2, if they work together, can they draft up to the 27 of Ellingson here. And we talk about these trucks. The draft is humongous compared to most of the Xfinity car and even the Cup next-gen Cup car. The draft, the way these things race around here, it's almost like a mini Daytona.
Yeah, these trucks are very well set up to turn this into a super speedway, where you won't see that with the Xfinity or the Cup cars generally. But we're going to see some high-speed action going through this entire race. We'll start seeing some tire fall off eventually in about 20 to 30 laps.
We sure will. And with the 65 lap race, it makes you wonder if you could cut this race in half. There's a good battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th. We have the 14 of Chance Taylor. Then there's Jamie Mullins pushing him down the front stretch. And then Chuck Phelps and Michael Kostek side by side for 7th on the racetrack. And these guys kind of getting a little bit separated from the top 4. And Sturgeon kind of slowly but surely working himself away from these guys. But you don't want to lose the draft as well. That's a big thing, too, with these trucks. Can't afford to lose the draft because it's so effective and so strong to keep you within the battle for the win.
Absolutely. And we're starting to, like you said, we're starting to see that where we're going to have that single file action all the way through. And we're just about single file through the entire field. Just a few there towards the back as we're on board with Chuck Phelps now. Peg leg. Sitting back here in the 7th position.
He is focused, and those arms, man, whew, he is wheeling around here on this racetrack, and he's side by side with Patrick Dravitt there, and they almost make a little contact. You'll see him have to correct the wheel just a little bit, and he's got a hole behind the 07 if he wants to tuck in the line here. I think he can, but chooses to stay bottom, and even behind him a little contact, but Phelps doing a good job here as Dravitt goes to the inside ahead of him and gets the 2-for-1 special into turn number 3, and now Phelps in the middle of Gardner and Kostek, and he gets a little loose there off of 4, and these guys trying to swarm around these non-playoff guys and get their ways up to the front.
You know, there is, if anybody's familiar with these sim rigs, some of these things can have a whole lot of force feedback, Alec. But man, I tell you what, looking at Chuck Phelps, there's no problem for him with that.
I don't think he has to worry about 100% force feedback. Other than directing, might him take his hands off the wheel, but nonetheless, good battle here between the chasers. There's Kostek in the 3, winner at Watkins Glen. Gardner on the inside, the winner at Talladega, and maybe that can bode well for him as a similar style in a way, a little bit different than this, but nonetheless, though, going to the inside of Chance Taylor, and there's Mullins going to the inside of Kostek here, and this is the battle here for about 6th on the racetrack here. Taylor and and Gardner, and then there's Mullins and Kostek 8th and 9th behind them, and the top 5 scooting away slightly from everybody else. Oh, this Kostek! DeSavino goes around, he slams the inside wall, and that's a caution and a huge hit to his championship hopes. It looks like Nekula also caught up in it as well down the backstretch, but the first caution of the evening comes out, and it involves one of the championship playoff drivers. It's heavy damage there to DeSavino.
Have to take a look here and see just how heavy of a hit that was.
Battling there with George Jewell in the 36 truck, and we'll see him get a little bit loose. Jewell gets loose and kind of door checks him sideways, and he caught the worst possible end of this racetrack with safer barrier, and that is a 90-degree angle wall right at you and slams driver's side, and I'd have to think bent the suspension in that truck. And we're all going to be on board here with Howie DeSavino, and one of those drivers wanted Atlanta and was looking at, if he can win this race tonight, was going to be able to go to the championship 4 race at Darlington, and right there, this bolt getting loose, and it's a door check there to the 55, not intentional by any means, and just nowhere for DeSalvino to go, and other than hold on, and he slammed the inside wall, and curious to see, that's a lot of damage, and in a truck and a track that's so fast with aerodynamics meaning so much at this racetrack, how much is this going to affect his chances of even getting a top 10 or top 15 now?
It's going to be very, very tough. There's a lot of damage on the front left of that 55 machine, as well as the rear left. That whole rear quarter panel is just crumpled right now. And then, again, hitting that back end and then slamming the front end into the wall at the same time. There's not a whole lot of damage down the side of the truck, surprisingly, but it's on the corners, and that's going to affect every single bit of aero advantage that he might have had.
And I see that left front tire being towed out. That scares me a little bit. Is maybe seeing some guys take fuel only here compared to tires, and it looks like Jake Ham, the winner of the last 2 races, will get out of out of pit road first ahead of everybody else, but nobody really seemed to play it too gutsy on strategy other than Ham and Wallace, who took 2 tires. And but big damage for Howie DeSavino. Jesse Nekula also got caught up in that one as well. And yeah, thank you, Eddie, for the meatball. Yeah, DiSavino suspension damage, so he's going to be spending some time in the pits, and that's going to really hurt his chances. But we go on to tonight's sponsors. This is the Veterans for Life Racing Truck Series on a Friday night. How about Veterans for Life? They're a race team with the goal of fielding a truck next season in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, veteran-based and focused on helping veterans all across the racing world. They are heavily involved with many veteran nonprofits to raise awareness and funds. Goat Locker Racing is now partnered with them, and they are the title sponsor of tonight's Friday Night Truck Series, and we appreciate for all they do here. And this is, as we said, the Veterans for Life Truck Series, and they have been treated to an incredible season that we've seen this year. 11 different winners in the first 12 races. And we talk about this one. Could we get a 12th different winner in the first 13 different races? That would be something.
You know, it definitely, it's been such a weird season. You know, it's not too often at all. We've mentioned that a couple times as we've progressed through this season about how it's just so rare to see that many different winners. So that just goes to show the advanced skill level that these drivers have to be able to put on that kind of effort week after week.
It sure is, as we see the drivers with their cams here, as we got Chuck Phelps, we got George Jewell, and we got Patrick Drabick. And as well with Patrick Drabick, he is sponsored by the Jam Printing and Promotions sponsorship, the Creamsicle machine, and our Jam Printing and Promotions pole sitter still in the front row. But don't forget about Jam. As Jam forming in 2013, Jam has contributed printing and promotional sponsorships to more than 60 local nonprofits with a primary focus on organizations that assist veterans, women, and children. They have been with Goat Locker Racing since the very beginning, local and veteran certified. When they do well, they do good in the community. We appreciate all that they do, as they do sponsor the Pole Award as well. And man, I'll tell you what, this is going to be a very interesting restart to see Ham with no tires and just fuel only, to see maybe this is a strategy later in this race if a caution were to fall in the right way, as it's Ellingson and Ham on the front row, followed by Bontrager and Sturgeon. Green flag back out in the air, and we're back underway from the Michigan International Speedway, and gridlock side by side between the top four.
And just to take a quick note, Howie DiSavino in that 55 is back out on the racetrack now. We'll see just how affected he is. Only got about a minute's worth of repair while he was down there in the pit box.
Yeah, oh man, a little contact between Ham and Sturgeon. They still make contact down the backstretch, leaning on each other. And maybe that wasn't the greatest of decisions to take no tires on this restart. We'll see how he fires off as Ellingson and Bontrager send it into turn 3, battling for the race lead. And how about Sturgeon way up and on board with McCarty as he slides up to the outside of Bontrager and gets there.
And McCarty had a lot of speed coming out of 4, but now he's locked door to door with Bontrager.
Side drafting the 49 was the 24 of McCarty, who goes up to the middle lane. And how about Sturgeon, high, wide, and handsome on the outside lane, and have a big surge in momentum down the backstretch. And Bontrager thought about closing the door, but he can't because there's such a huge run from the 26. And Sturgeon going up to the outside of Bontrager, and now McCarty tries to go and take the lead, or take the air away from the 26, but that 26 is rolling up on the outside.
That outside line's doing pretty well right now.
Surprising, as we don't really see a lot of guys using the outside lane, but Sturgeon is using it to his advantage. And look at this, a little contact almost between him and Bontrager as we're on board with Sturgeon, and he's putting pressure on McCarty. But how about Ellingson as well, as Sturgeon goes underneath McCarty now down the backstretch, but two non-chase drivers now racing these chase guys, and if Sturgeon can get by McCarty, we'll have two non-chasers leading the field, and the rest of the chasers having to, pun intended, chase them down and try to punch that ticket to the championship.
Way to work that one in.
I got you. Sturgeon goes down to shake the draft, but he's got McCarty and Bontrager all over his rear tailgate. And McCarty throws a block on Bontrager. Sturgeon has no answer for it, and Sturgeon now gets put on the inside. McCarty going to try to force him down, take the side force away as Ellingson takes the air away from the 26, and McCarty shoots right past back the tour, right back past the 27 of Logan Sturgeon, and now these three try to work together to catch the leader Jacob Ellingson in the 27, who's got a little bit of a decent gap ahead of these guys as Sturgeon touches the apron on the inside.
Yeah, they're going to have to work together a lot more. Oh, Sturgeon right up between them.
Man.
Loses that spot to Bontrager because of that.
It almost got, that was almost a wreck, and Bontrager goes by, but man, what a move. And on board with Patrick Drabick, who has ran these guys down, and he can't afford to lose the drafter, but he's just in it with enough where we can have a 5-car or 5-truck breakaway as Drabick about a 6/10 of a second gap over Jeremy Gardner. How about Jacob Denson as well in the 79 up to 6th? And he's followed by Kostek, Taylor, and Mullins, the top 10. So these guys really going at it here. Is in front of Drabick. Look at Bontrager to the inside of McCarty, and Sturgeon just waiting in the wings. And as this is happening, Ellingson's loving what he's seeing, watching these guys kind of pull away. And we'll see, though. Drabick will probably have to say something about this as this race goes on.
Yeah, Ellingson is eating up every single bit of this, watching it in his rear view, knowing that those guys are using up all of their tire. He's going to be able to kind of not necessarily coast, but he's going to be able to save those tires a lot better for this long run.
He sure is. As Drabick just kind of in a 5/10 of a second gap behind, and like a 8 or 9 of a second gap ahead so far, but he just sits just behind them quietly waiting to pounce here as he's starting to size up his competitors ahead of him. These guys have stayed side by side for the last 5 or so laps, and these guys can't seem to shake each other, but they're not really catching up to Ellingson, but they're not losing Ellingson as well.
Yeah, we've got similar battles towards the back of the field. We've got 2 by 2 right around the 10th to 15th position, but it is all action up there in that top 5 right now.
And I think it's a big development to put out here for the points. Jake Ham has fallen to 15th on the racetrack, and we talked about him staying out and taking no tires, just fuel only. That's looming. This looks like it could be a big mistake on the part of the 87 driver of the 87, who has fallen from 1st to 15th in just a matter of 8 laps of green flag racing. So Ham desperately going to need to get off sequence probably to get himself back in the mix and back into the contention, because the driver who's won the last 2 races the last 2 weeks he is struggling right now, having probably the worst run he's had all season.
Yeah, it's not the time to have your worst run, but he could very well be on a different strategy from everybody else that'll put him up at the front later in this race. Don't count him out by any means at all. No,
you can't count out Jake Ham, who's been so good and consistent this season. As there's another playoff driver, Howie DiSavino, who started 11th, was involved in last caution, sitting idle in pit road, now 2 laps down here as the leaders go by him. And you got to think he's going to be put in a must-win situation going into Richmond next week. And what looked like a promising night has gone the exact opposite and has gone to the worst outcome you could possibly have, and finishing last in the field. And now being put in a box where you're going to have to go out and win. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to win next week at Richmond.
You absolutely do, but we've got a good battle going on right now for the 6th position between Denson, Gardner, and Kostek. It's been back and forth between Denson and Gardner for the last couple of laps. Kostek gets close, but just does not have room to make a move. Shirley just laying in wait for one of these drivers to open up a gap for that 3 truck to make its way through.
Yeah, and Jacob Denson, a name we really haven't mentioned all this season, and he's having a solid outing here at Michigan as he's battling 2 chase drivers, the 42 of Gardner and the 3 of Kostek, and Denson a solid run up inside this top 10 and looking to get in the top 5. And I'm starting to notice this field getting a little bit more spread out, but it seems like the top 9 or so are in a pack, and then you got 10th on back that are also battling in a separate pack, as Mullins kind of the last truck to have this little bit of a lead pack draft, but he's dragging along Feltz and Taylor and Justice as well. So be interested to see if these guys group together as the tires begin to wear, if we start seeing a little bit more a spread out racing here, as Ellingson has opened up a 3/10 of a second lead over Craig Bontrager. And to mention Ellingson, who's not in the playoffs, a season that honestly, he's been so consistent this year that he would be a championship favorite if he was in the playoffs, if he hadn't had the finishes that he got. And some not of his own doing at all, just caught up in the wrong place, wrong time. And last week at IRP, I don't think anybody was going to touch him all race until he got in an incident with a lap car. So could this finally be the night where Ellingson is able to break free and get this win and finally put his name in the win column, and I think one of the most deserving drivers this season, as well as Bontrager, who's in the chase. Both these drivers, you could argue, could have won a race this season or should have won a race this season, and they're sitting 1-2 here in front of this field.
Yeah, Ellingson's season has just been completely riddled with bad luck over and over again. He's been such a consistent front runner week after week, and then, just runs out of luck.
He does, and now Bontrager reeling him in slowly but surely as we're on board with the 49 Toyota Tundra, and he is getting in that draft. And now Ellingson has to use an IndyCar tactic that we see, shaking the draft, snaking down the straightaway, if you so will. And I think we're starting to see Ellingson have to play a little bit more defensive here, as behind them, you see McCarty using the outside lane, and how about Drabick up to fourth? Gardner almost gets up into the wall, might have brushed it there in front of Denson and Kostek, and that could have been an interesting thing as Bontrager goes to the inside on Ellingson and gets the lead away. But Ellingson not done yet. He crosses Bontrager over, but he bobbles a little bit on the bottom. He bounces off of him, and Bontrager Ellingson slides into the pit barrels on the pit road entrance, and another great run gone bad for Jacob Ellingson. Oh, man. And a heavy hit into the pit barrels and has ripped the back end of that truck off. And another caution in this race. And it just goes to show the season, the tone of the season for Jacob Ellingson. Oh, that is just criminal. On board with the 27 truck. To the inside, we saw him bobble, and Bontrager's right there, just catches him, and it sends Ellingson sideways to the inside retaining wall and into a pit entrance, and he hit the pit barrels. If he hadn't got there, he probably would have been fine, but that's a hard hit for the 27, and his race over in another race that looks so promising and just has nothing to show for it.
Yeah, that's such an upset for Jacob Ellingson. I almost feel bad talking about all of his bad luck that he's had this season. Man, that's a heartbreaker.
That's a shame. And 2 weeks in a row, we talk about Ellingson being the dominant driver of the day. He had led every single lap up to that point, or all but 2 laps up to that point. And we talk about that bobble that he had, 78 ambient temperature. But look at the track temp, 124 degrees. It makes you think that these guys are at least a little bit having to deal with handling, and I think we're seeing it right there where he is, in fact, dealing with handling. As pit stops happening, and it looks like Drabick going to win the race off of pit road in front of Bontrager, Gardner, Sturgeon, and McCarty. And it maybe not the greatest of pit stops there for McCarty, who falls back to 5th. And the track temp actually goes down as a result of us talking about it. But, man, what a heartbreaker for Ellingson. But now this race turned up on its head once again. And I think there's 2 things to mention as this caution happens. Number 1, Jake Ham gets the tires that he probably should have taken last stop. Has a set over the field, but now he's back on even playing field with everybody. And then Howie DiSavino gets 1 of his 4 laps that he was down back.
Yeah, DiSavino did pick up another meatball. I'm not sure if we hit that earlier while he was in the pit stall, but it's going to take a lot for DiSavino to get back up on this lead lap nearly halfway through this race. He doesn't have a whole lot of time. He's going to need a lot of luck on his side.
He sure is, and it's just like I said, unfortunate for Jacob Ellingson to have that happen. But as we're under caution up, we give a shout out to more of our sponsors. About the Veterans for Life Foundation, since the goal of the Veterans for Life Foundation is to both revitalize communities and supporting military veterans and their families' successful transition back into civilian life. Through support services, counseling, and education, They provide permanent, affordable housing to veterans and their families. So we appreciate them being a sponsor of the Goat Locker Racing League and all that they do here as well. And how about a shout out as well to the Cruising Classics company located in Columbus, Ohio. Cruising Classics is a beautiful 56,000 square foot showroom filled with hundreds of unique automobiles. There's something for everybody out there. Hand-picked selection of muscle cars and hot rods. Come on down to visit the facility today and check out their website, cruisingclassicsinc.com. And we appreciate them sponsoring us this evening and everything that they do for the sponsors here at Goat Locker Racing. And what a race we've saw here. And man, oh man, this has gotten really interesting as this race goes on here, Logan.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen one playoff driver not necessarily get eliminated from contention. He's still on the track turning laps, but he's way back there in the pack. And then front runner Jacob Ellingson, he's now down 3 laps because of the last incident here. So it's been turned on its head.
It sure has. The pace truck will pull off, and it's between Drabick in the 07 and Craig Bontrager on the outside there in the 49 truck. And while they go green, we'll crank it up for a lap and let you hear the engines of these trucks. And the lap goes on the board here as the first lap of the restart. Bontrager, and how about Jeremy Gardner now to the inside of the 49 for the lead, then Drabick, followed by Sturgeon, then followed by McCarty, Denson, Kostek, Mullins, Taylor, and McDonald all together as Gardner pokes back in a line, and Drabick pokes out of line, goes to the inside of Gardner for second as Bontrager tries to control the lanes.
Yeah, that was one heck of a 3-wide move there. Big contact with the 42. Nothing doing, though, but huge move. 3 wide down the backstretch out of turn 2 while we were cranked up there. That was close.
That was a little bit too close for comfort there between the 07 of Drabick and the 42 of Gardner. And maybe Drabick, maybe a little bit of right front damage. Doesn't look like it, but maybe not going to be too happy with the move there. Either driver's side here. And look at this as these guys single file now throughout the top 8 or so. But Kostek's been quietly riding in 8th most of this race. Makes you wonder if he'll mount a charge later as we continue going. I don't think fuel will be an issue as this race goes on. So don't count out Kostek, who's a similar track to this in a way is with the straightaways and the draft at Pocono. It came down between Kostek and Ham. So don't count out the 3 truck in this race who can look to punch a ticket into that championship round. And Sturgeon going to the outside of Gardner and Drabick here for second. And Sturgeon, man, he has been making a lot of progress using that outside lane to his advantage and taking spots away from drivers.
Sturgeon has mastered that high line so far this race, as Drabick's going to make a move to the outside as well on the 42 of Gardner. Not quite enough momentum. A little bit of scrape on the wall for Sturgeon out of turn number 4. Drabick gets door to door with Gardner. We'll see who gets this position coming down the backstretch.
And it didn't halt Sturgeon's momentum as he goes to the outside. 4 trucks under a blanket for the race lead. Sturgeon on the outside. Craig Bontrager in that orange truck on the inside. Sturgeon has position on Bontrager to get there. Bontrager not closing the door, and that allows Sturgeon to crack it open and get there. And he is there to the outside. Behind them, it's Drabick and Gardner trying to figure out who they're going to push. There's a little bit of bobble for both of the top 2, and that allows Drabick to get to the inside of the 26 of Sturgeon.
One thing to note here, Alec, we have 3 of these 4 drivers here in the chase. Sturgeon being the only one not able to lock himself into that round of 4. but he is putting up one heck of a fight up here, making sure they know who he is for next season.
He's keeping them on their toes. Gardner squeezes right in front of Sturgeon. Sturgeon going to push Gardner to the inside, and Gardner pokes out a line to the inside of Drabic. Drabic trying to hold on to second here as they try to run down Bontrager in the 49 truck, who's kind of just been the Pied Piper since Jacob Ellingson was out of this race, and now trying to control the lanes here. He'll go high, give the draft to Gardner, or to Drabic, and now he'll come low to try to shake the draft away from Drabic and give it a little bit to Gardner to keep him in the race, keep him side by side so he can pull away. But man, it seems like if we get a late race restart, if you're the leader, you might be a sitting duck with how big these runs are.
Absolutely, and just like Bontrager spoiler says, somebody is just gonna send it.
He sure is, and Bontrager has been sending it this race as this field spreads out a little bit, becoming two distinct packs. Jake Ham is one of those drivers in that second pack, has yet to really make up his mistake on pit road. A Sturgeon just kisses the wall there off of turn number 4, and down the front stretch here now side by side with Jeremy Gardner is McCarty, and then Denson Kostek kind of just sitting and waiting in the wings if these drivers continue to race each other, maybe to pounce later in this run.
Very well seems like it's setting up that way. It's going to be a battle to the end, and that is ever so evident right now.
Well, I'll ask you this, Logan. How about, we talk about fuel, we're not sure how long they can go on fuel, probably at 30 or so laps. That's not going to be enough to make it to the end. So does this become, if you're going to split this race in half, a 15 lap or so sprint each run maybe, and cut this race in half, where they'll have about 30, 40 laps to go here, so maybe split this into 20 if you really want to. 20 laps a run.
It's very tough to say. I think we're going to see a whole slurry of strategies whenever it comes to that. We'll see some of these guys come down early, try to take that undercut. We'll see some of those guys try to split it right in half like you've mentioned, and then I'm sure we'll have a couple waiting it out to see if there's going to be a caution later in this race. They'll be able to make it close to that lap 65, but they're not going to be able to make it all the way on this tank of fuel.
Absolutely, but now you got to wonder too, you can't pit by yourself. We see how close these guys are together. There's 8 trucks battling for this lead, only separated by a second. I don't think you can afford to pit by yourself because the draft just seems to be so prevalent, so effective, and it seems to be dominant here.
Yeah, it'll likely be a last-second determination on whoever's in front of you for an undercut. I would say that we'll see one guy come in and one guy who wasn't planning on coming in follow or more.
Yeah, it looked like Sturgeon maybe got the wall there, clipped it off of 2, and it has allowed Gardner to take that spot and move up into 3rd. McCarty thought about going to the inside, but clipped the apron, and he lost a ton of momentum, and here comes the 79 of Jacob Denson to the inside of McCarty, and McCarty just might lose 2, if not 3 spots going into turn 1 as Denson and Mullins go by, and Kostek now to the inside of McCarty.
And Mullins, a name we haven't mentioned a whole lot here tonight, just following right behind. And he's going to claim some positions if he continues to do so.
And like we said, this field separated by about 2 packs or so as we're on board with Jamie Mullins following the B&H Racing Team Chevy Silverado of Jacob Denson, who's finally cracked himself into the top 5 as these 4 try to run down the top 4. So we're starting to see these guys kind of pack up together, and this is just like you would see at a Daytona, Talladega, or Atlanta style of racing, where we see the packs sometimes get split up, and then you have guys just riding around planning their move when they want to make their move to win this race.
And right now, the 26 all over the back bumper, the 42, almost a little bit of contact there going through turn 2, but nothing doing at the moment. There's a big push there.
Yeah. Bump draft, if you so will, into turn number 1 or into turn number 3, as it looks like Sturgeon giving a push to Gardner, as it looks like Drabic's kind of just biding his time behind the 49 of Craig Bontrager. We'll see this time he has a big run. Will he take it? Because I think Gardner's starting to pressure the 07, and we see this field coming together. Chance Taylor is starting to run down the back half of this pack of Kostek and McCarty. So we'll see if this field kind of gets all together And it looks like even Jake Ham, he is trying to get in front of Chance Taylor here to lead that second pack. I think Ham's truck, we know, is always fast. Just he got so off strategy and it put him back, deeper in traffic, and he just still hasn't yet to rebound all the way up to where he needs to be.
He, like you said, he's always fast. So to see him back there in the middle of the pack is kind of unusual. I think Ham just needs to find that groove that works for him, and he'll be able to start working his way up through the top 10, currently sitting in 10th, but he'll be able to catch up eventually.
Yes, sir, and there he is, trying to get by Chance Taylor, and maybe trying to lead this second pack to that first pack of 8 trucks, as this is the battle for 9th on the racetrack. And if that first pack was to stay together, Ham, the best he can get is 9th at the moment if this were the final couple of lapses. Here comes McDonald to the inside of the 14 of Taylor, and that's going to be for 10th on the racetrack. But Ham trying to do everything he can to get up to this front pack of 8 trucks that are so far single file just until about now, as McCarty working on Kostek here. But Ham going to have to do everything he can to run down these guys, as he's sitting about a second and a half or so back from the tail end of that pack, and I'd say maybe 8 or 9 tenths is the sweet spot to get a sniff of that draft.
Yeah, and the best situation for Ham right now is for McDonald and Taylor to sort things out, get single file, and start. There they go. Perfect timing, as they're going to start to be able to put together a draft as long as they don't try to battle it out with each other. And then that group of cars will catch up rapidly.
And just as you say that, and we look at this front pack, 5 of the 8 trucks in this front pack are chase eligible. They are playoff drivers, and if any of those 5 were to win, they can punch their ticket into the championship race, as we see a battle for the lead between 2 playoff drivers. Dravic to the inside of Bontrager, and he's been waiting to make this move for quite some time now. He finally had a big enough run, but he won't be able to take it enough to get around Bontrager, and now Gardner closes up to the back bumper of Dravic here, and now looks to the inside to get some clean air to the nose, as Sturgeon and Denson kind of just waiting in the wings if these guys start racing.
Yeah, Sturgeon's going to stick to that high line, but Dravic had a lot of momentum going into 1. I think might have just barely missed his braking zone, or lifting zone rather, at this track, and had to lift a little bit more than he intended once he got into the corner and lost all of that momentum.
And look at Sturgeon now to the outside of Gardner. Can he keep it up there is the question. Gardner bobbles just a little bit, but closes the door, shuts the door in front of Sturgeon. And these top 4 beginning to pull away from Denson and Mullins here as they stay in line. But once they get to racing, they open the door for the 79 and the 66 to recatch them, as Sturgeon now goes around the outside of Gardner, and he's going to get there. Where will Dravic go to give draft 2? He goes high and then goes low to follow Bontrager, and that should at least pull Gardner even with Sturgeon here into turn number 1. And these top 4 opening up a gap, but they're starting to race each other here, and we'll see if Denson, Mullins, or even McCarty or Kostek can reel these guys in, as Sturgeon goes way high and he catches the wall.
That's going to kill all of Sturgeon's momentum.
Denson. And that sure did. Denson to the inside, as well as Mullins trying to follow suit. Sturgeon going to go back to the outside lane where he's been the most comfortable. But as these 3 now go 3 wide off of turn number 4, Sturgeon gets into the wall once again, and now Denson has to give room to him, as Sturgeon's race falling apart just on 1 lap here on lap 46. And that is really going to hurt the performance of that truck.
Yeah, Sturgeon needs to move it down about a half lane further. These trucks are starting to slide around a little bit more with that high track temperature and the tire wear combination. So that line that he has been running on fresh tires is not going to work.
No, and Denson and Mullins running side by side. You see it as we're on board with Logan Sturgeon. These guys need to get single filed out pretty quick, because this top 3 now is starting to pull away here. And I think I'm starting to notice Kostek and McCarty getting a little antsy here, knowing they can't afford to lose those top 3.
Now is about the time where you really have to start piecing things together, work as a team, as we've got a 3-car tandem that'll be able to hopefully make some moves up there and close that gap to the leading 3.
And they continue to stay side by side. There's Denson and McCarty and Mullins, And McCarty is trying to find a way. When does he decide to just be aggressive and take them 3 wide and get by them and get past them? Because now they've fallen about 8/10 behind the top 3 as Mullins making contact with Denson, and he feeds him a fender to get by, and he does. Oh, Bontrager might have got the wall there while leading, and look at this. Drabick and Gardner going by him on the front stretch. About that, Drabick to the lead.
One thing to look out for, we do have some lap traffic just ahead now. We'll see if our leaders can navigate the 55 of Howie DiSavino. They'll be closing up to him right at the entrance of turn 3. DiSavino comes down the track, though, gets out of the way. Smart move.
And we see on our V-Speed Instant Replay, Bontrager, the highest he ran all race, and he got the wall there, getting a little bit wide as we go into the lead for the battle for the lead now. Currently, Gardner to the inside of Drabick. Bontrager, if he has any damage, how much will it affect his truck? Gardner trying to pull the side draft on the 07, but it's not going to be enough because now Bontrager fills the hole that was there as it leaves Drabick all by himself to the lead and gets clean air. But behind them, Mullins and McCarty have began to reel these 3 in as they begin to race for the lead.
Yeah, this battle for, the 1, 2, and 3 positions has allowed this 4, 5, and 6 to really start to catch up. That gap closed.
And as they've all begun to keep racing here, that second pack led by Ham, McDonald, and Justice is reeling in the top 8. We might have 13 or 14 trucks racing here all together for the win as Gardner now goes to the bottom. Drabick goes to cover the lane, and that leaves Bontrager side by side with the 42 of Gardner as McCarty and Mullins 2-car tandem 2011 style up to these 3.
Yeah, that was nose to tail right there between those 2. That was honestly beautiful to watch.
Sure was, and Denson has been kind of shuffled out of line here as Kostek pokes back in line as Gardner continuing to work underneath Bontrager there. Bontrager going to try to force him lower than Gardner wants to go as it looks like Drabick trying to take the air away from Bontrager, and now Levi McCarty has thrown his hat into the ring as Denson has a moment behind them, and now Drabick going to have to control lanes and move around, shake the draft, and we also got to wonder too, when are these guys going to pit?
It's got to be coming up soon, surely. I mean, there's nobody out here right now saving fuels. Drabick gets right in front of the nose of the 42, takes away that clean air that he had to let up just a touch. Now Bontrager looks to the inside of Jeremy Gardner.
And he got there, and now can Bontrager complete the pass, although Gardner going to try to use his own tactics against him as Bontrager now hooking that truck to the bottom, but man, a lot of rotation for the 49, but this time Gardner with momentum will get by, but that opens the door for McCarty as he goes low. Where does Bontrager go? He won't be able to stop him as McCarty now pokes to the outside and tries to take third away.
McCarty will have the momentum on the exit of this corner, but Bontrager really just sends it in there on the low side. Almost got to the door of the 42, but there goes the 24.
And speaking of the 42, he's to the door of the 07 of Drabick, side drafting him down the backstretch. It's the 42 of Gardner. Can Gardner complete the pass? He sends it into turn number 3. Drabick trying to get to that right rear and take the side force away. He can't do it. Jeremy Gardner in the lead, but here comes Levi McCarty from third, trying to get second away from Drabick. He goes low. Drabick throws a block. Wow, McCarty breaks his ankles and goes to the outside. And now McCarty is there. Drabick to the inside of Gardner. Can he complete the pass? Although the momentum going to be on Gardner's side as McCarty now will have momentum off of 2. Drabick tries to clear up. He does so, and McCarty has to back out of the gas in an aggressive move from Patrick Drabick as these guys racing for an opportunity into the championship.
And all 4 of these drivers up here, Gardner, Drabick, Bontrager, McCarty, looking for that win here tonight. It is boiling down to be a fantastic finish to this race.
It sure is, and don't count out, we talked about him earlier, that 3 truck of Michael Kostek. He is pushing Jamie Mullins up to these 4, and Kostek might throw his name into the ring here to get into the championship. These top 5 just might become all chasers, and one of these top 5 will race for a championship if they can pull off the win.
Looking further back in the pack there on the screen, All those cars single filed out, so it is all up to this top 6.
Sure is. Hey, don't count on Jake Ham, who's caught the back of Sturgeon, who's fallen off, but maybe with some damage. But he is now, at least in somewhat a striking distance, come pit stops. He'll have draft here as these top 8 continue to race each other. Denson, top 7 is Denson beginning to lose them just a little bit right now. And the top will probably become the top 6 here, depending on what happens here with 10 laps to go from the Michigan International Speedway. The top 7 continue to ride single file. Does anybody have anything for Jeremy Gardner, who now slowly but surely pulling away from Patrick Drabick?
Drabick's not going to let him go, though. That gap is not very well increasing. But now we have the 24 McCarty. He's sticking his nose down there to the low side of Drabick, see what he can do, trying to set up for something here within the next 10 laps.
Now, let me ask you this, Logan. Is there a possibility we can make it to the end on fuel?
You know, I would have to say no, but at the same time, these guys are continuing to push just as hard as they did at the start of this run, so they might have a little bit more than what we thought, Alec.
It is starting to make me think they might have just a little bit more than we thought, like you said, and I think McCarty's got to find a way to maybe get around Drabick, because now Gardner is opening up that lead to about 4 to 5 tenths of a second. That was a half a second here, as here comes McCarty to the bottom. He thought about going to the inside. He's still trying to tuck back in line behind Drabick, and now Bontrager pushes the 24 of McCarty up to the 07, and there goes Kostek by Mullins here for what will be 5th, as McCarty now going to have a huge run down the backstretch going and using the outside lane on Drabick, and will have a big run and a whole lot of draft down this backstretch. Can he get by the 07 quick enough to run the 42 down?
Just going to give the 07 a little touch going into 3, try to unsettle Patrick Drabick there. Does not work, as Drabick is able to hold it just about a car length off of that apron, as we saw Bontrager right there on the yellow line. White line, rather.
And now McCarty's starting to get a little bit desperate here to find some clean air to get by Drabick here. He needs to find a way, because Gardner is running away with this one, and will be a punched-in ticket to the championship race at Darlington. Drabick holds on to 2nd. Bontrager has a big moment off of turn 2. Almost caught the outside wall, but he saves it and hangs on to it. Can Levi McCarty or any of these guys have anything saved up for the 42 of Gardner?
It's tough to say. Gardner's been able to walk away in the last couple of laps, putting that half second of a gap to 2nd place. It's not quite looking like anybody's got anything for Gardner.
We'll see, as McCarty went to the bottom, tried to fake Drabick out. Now he pokes to the inside for 2nd here. This could be a big move for Levi McCarty, who entered in as the top seed into this round. But still, he'll have to tuck in behind Drabick, but he gets the wall this time, and that'll cost him some momentum in a spot to Bontrager, and maybe another one to Kostek in the 3 to the inside as well.
We've got 5 chase drivers, all trying to catch up.
Win this race.
This is beautiful.
This is, and we got 5 laps to go to see which one of these 5 chase drivers can make it into the championship round, as it's a battle for 4th between McCarty and Kostek. Bontrager just a little bit ahead here, trying to get ahead of McCarty. We'll see. He gives some air to the number 3 of Kostek, and that just might hurt the chances of the 3 clearing the 24 down the backstretch here, as Gardner goes down to shake the draft. I tell you what, though, if Drabick's going to run him down, he needs to find something here. He needs a pusher, maybe, to get him to Gardner to at least mount a charge on this final lap. Maybe get a slingshot win here if he can, as now Bontrager looking to be the best truck behind the 42 of Gardner.
Yeah, it's going to take some teamwork to catch back up to that 42. And it's, I don't know, they're battling so hard back here from 2nd to 5th. It's hard to say if they're going to be trying to just get as many points as possible.
We'll see. It looks like a lap truck getting out of the way. I don't know if that was DiSavino. He did get out of the way, and it is, and he'll go by the 55 here into turn number 3. Bontrager looking to the inside of Drabic here for second. McCarty waiting in the wings in fourth as Bontrager runs third. Drabic runs second, but Drabic goes wide here off of turn number 2. That allows Bontrager to get underneath them. Drabic shuts the door right in front of Bontrager. Now McCarty gets to the outside, and this is all you can ask. This is all you need for Jeremy Gardner to walk away here with this win.
A lot of heavy blocks coming from the 07 right now that's not allowing any of them to catch up to the 42.
And it's
But
not...
That's
Okay.
racing here at Michigan.
It sure is. Bontrager squeezing Drabic and McCarty. McCarty left almost with no choice but to stay right tucked up behind Drabic as they'll come to 2 laps to go, and Gardner hoping these guys keep it clean once he sees the white flag. 2 laps to go. We'll go on the board here from the Michigan International Speedway, and what has been a wild one we expected to be wild, has turned out to be wild. McCarty gets by Bontrager and now goes underneath Drabic for second. Oh man, Drabic gonna pinch the 24 McCarty. Kostek now underneath Bontrager here. 2 rows of side by side from second all the way back to 5th as Gardner opens that gap up to 0.7 of a second down the backstretch. McCarty tucks back in line. Bontrager gets out of line for third as Gardner scoots away here in the final closing laps of this race. Drabic doing his best Ryan Newman impression to keep these drivers behind him. White flag, 1 more lap to go. McCarty with the big moment off the 4, and he hits the wall, but no caution. 1 to go. Race is official. Gardner with the lead. Drabic in second. Kostek now looking under Bontrager for third.
I think there's a little contact there for the 24 and the 49. That's what sent McCarty into the wall, able to hold it. And like you said, no caution. This race will be official. It's Bontrager looking to the outside of Kostek right now. He's got the momentum. It's going to be a drag race to that finish line for these 2 right here.
It sure will be. There's contact for third, but off of turn 4, his second win of the season will be the most important win he'll grab. Jeremy Gardner down the front stretch in the 42 will win at Michigan and will race for a championship at Darlington. Gardner the winner, Drabic is second, and Bontrager holds on for third, and we have our second multi-time winner, and it's Jeremy Gardner. What a race.
Fantastic showing for the
What a
42 in
race.
those last 15 laps.
And the 42, we know Gardner is a big Kyle Larson fan, and a track Kyle Larson's had so much success at with that 42. Well, he does it proud here at the Michigan International Speedway. Jeremy Gardner, victorious, and now will race for a championship at the Darlington Raceway. He won't have to worry about the pressures that Richmond will bring. He will now worry and he'll focus on the championship race at Darlington as he burns it down on the front stretch. And we can't help but think and hope that everybody at the Hidden Wit Brewery enjoyed that one. This Hidden Wit Brewery was a company born from the desire to help you find a little escape from the world outside their doors. Their focus from the beginning has always been to craft drinkable beers you love to enjoy. They are a majority veteran-owned and the title sponsor of the Tuesday Xfinity Series. And as well, shout out to InVets. And as InVets aids in transitioning soldiers to civilian life and are focusing on a job placement and finding the right community for veterans and their families to ensure their success and happiness. They are a veteran nonprofit in Indiana with the goal of bringing veterans to the state to live and work. They are the title sponsor of the Sunday Truck Series here at Goat Locker. And for everybody that enjoyed that race, if it was on at Nasty's Restaurant and Bar, we hope you guys were treated to a great one, and we hope you guys enjoyed that one as they opened up on March 21st of 2012. Nasty's opens its store in Hillard, Ohio, and from the get-go, they aim to embody the energy and passion their sons Nathan and John poured into their dreams. Nathan's commitment to hospitality ensured that every guest received exceptional food and service, and they are the co-sponsors of Wednesday's Next Gen Series, and they have hosted numerous fundraisers in their establishment with the goal of raising the funds to donate a sim rig to a deserving veteran or first responder. And we appreciate what all these sponsors do as Jeremy Gardner is victorious here tonight. And what a race we saw here from the Michigan International Speedway. And we'll take a look at our finishing results as Jeremy Gardner, victorious in the race tonight. Patrick Drabick did everything he could to hang on to second and did so. And Craig Bontrager fell short here and ends up third, with Michael Kostek in fourth. Levi McCarty was fifth. Jamie Mullins was sixth. Jacob Denson was seventh, with Chance Taylor in eighth. Jake Ham gets ninth, and Stephen McDonald rounds out the top 10.
Behind that top 10, we've got Tyler Justice in the 33, followed by George Jewell. Chuck Pegleg Phelps in that 75 will take home the 13th spot, followed by Logan Sturgeon in that 26, who we saw up front for most of this race. Brandon Wallace in the 99 takes home 15th, followed by James Goshen. Matt Knight's behind him in the 64. Jesse Necula in the 51 will take home 18th. Unfortunate night for Howie DiSavino, not looking great for this chase. And then again, a very unfortunate night for a tough front runner for a good majority of this race. Jacob Ellingson will take home the last spot.
He will, and we'll talk to our winner, Jeremy Gardner, after what a race he put on him. We'll move him up here. Jeremy Gardner, Alec and Logan in the VCB booth. You got a copy, buddy?
Yes, sir.
Well, man, we were talking, or mentioned as you were coming across the line, the 42, synonymous with winning here at Michigan with Kyle Larson. I know one of your favorite drivers. And tonight, you do that number proud, leading 13 laps after you started 13th, and now get to race for a championship at Darlington. How do you feel?
Feels good, man. I came into the night. I didn't think I was going to win it. Michigan's not one of my best tracks. I run decent here, but I don't win much here. The racing was tight there between me and Pat. I bet you we banged doors about 5-6 times. I kept seeing 0X pop up. I'm like, God almighty. Me and Pat race hard beside each other. Craig ran a hell of a race tonight as well. That was super fun. I just tried to save as much as I could. I knew I had the tire to do it, but the setup started out a little loose after about 5-6 laps in. Long run, it actually tightened up a little bit, so I was getting a little comfortable there at the end. And about 10 to go, 15 to go, I just said hell with it. I just sent it. So thankfully it paid out, man. It feels good to be back in victory lane.
Yes, it does, and I bet it does, as you become our second multi-time winner of the season. And now I know next week is Richmond. You won't have to worry about that. So how do you feel about going out there and then more of the focus on Darlington and how you could perform at Darlington to win this championship?
Yeah, I mean, I ain't got to really focus on Richmond, but I'm a big fan of Richmond. Richmond's one of my best tracks. I think it'll be fun next week at Richmond. Darlington is actually another one of my favorite tracks, so it's nice to be able to make it into that. So hopefully run good there. Man, I can't believe this. I didn't think I was honestly going to have that in the bag tonight.
At the end, you did, buddy. Well, we appreciate your time, Jeremy. Does anybody want to give a shout out to here for this win?
Yeah, man. Pat and Jamie, GLR, they put on a hell of a league. Like I say every week, this is my favorite league to run in. I appreciate everything they do for the veteran community, for our community. I mean, this is the best community out there on iRacing. Lincoln Tech, Hidden Wit Brewery, Cruising Classics, Nasty's Restaurant and Bar, Veterans for Life Foundation, Veterans for Life Racing, NVets, Jam Printing and Promotions, V-Speed. Of course, y'all guys, obviously, y'all put on a hell of a broadcast every week, and we appreciate y'all. Nazareth 360, Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs, Alexander PCs, Sim Motion, Next Level Racing, iRacing, Above the Yellow Line, and my boys over at Premier Racing Setups. Come check us out. Appreciate y'all broadcasting tonight.
For sure. Well, we appreciate your time, Jeremy. Congratulations again, and we look forward to maybe we'll talk to you again in Richmond, but we'll for sure be hearing your name at Darlington.
Appreciate you, buddy. I'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Have a good one. And that is our winner, Jeremy Gardner, and we'll move on to our second place finisher, where Logan is standing with Patrick Drabick.
I've got Patrick Drabick down here on that podium, man. What a finish for you, an all-out battle for those last 15 laps. You handled everything that you needed to, throwing those blocks left and right, and made everything work out perfectly. Just, man, what were the feelings inside of that car while you had been under such fire for those last couple of laps there?
I mean, it was that way all race long. I mean, you just couldn't get away from anybody, with the draft and all that other kind of craziness. But that last handful of laps, that last 10 to 15 laps that was intense. Swapping back and forth with Jeremy Gardner. Craig Bontrager was up there as well, Logan Sturgeon. And we're all just, throwing haymakers back and forth. I mean, Levi McCarty got up in the mix too. And we're all just trying to make passes on one another and hold our position, man. So it was chaos, but I mean, a whole hell of a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And it was a blast to watch all of those cars battling up there, man. That was just an absolute show that you all put on there. But, looking forward a couple weeks here, based off of the finishing positions. By the way,
Yeah.
amazing job starting out in 17th, gaining 15 positions. That's insane. But aside from that, we've got a huge, not, how do I say this? Let's rephrase. We have a very, very tight battle up
Yeah.
here for this chase. So right now, based off of the finishing positions, I believe you're going to be placed up here in second on the board, only following our race winner here tonight, Jeremy Gardner. So you're looking pretty good for Darlington, but of course, we've got Richmond to get through first. What are your thoughts going into next week?
Richmond's a fun track. We've had some outstanding races there in the trucks, and I can't wait to hop underneath the lights at that short track, beat and bang for a little while, and let's just see who ends up in this championship four. I mean, it's good to get a great finish here tonight. Actually let a couple laps to grab a bonus point, bring this Jam Pringham Promotions '07 Chevy Silverado home in second. I mean, after all the issues I had before the race and then in qualifying. To get up to second and actually lead a couple laps, man, I'm ecstatic.
Man, I'm really looking forward to next week. And Jeremy Gardner talking with Alec just a few moments ago, he's feeling pretty good going into Richmond, even though he doesn't need to.
Yeah.
Are you going to have what it takes to beat the 42 next week and make sure that it's not a points race for three drivers?
I'd like to say, yeah. I mean, Jeremy Gardner's bad fast. I mean, anytime he gets behind the wheel of a car, a truck, or whatever it is, the man knows how to save tires. The man knows his racecraft really, really well. We've had some pretty epic battles over the years. I can recall Richmond last year where we kind of got together a little bit. And so I expect nothing but the same. Anytime we get door to door, we end up having a whole heck of a lot of fun. So it was a blast racing here tonight. But Jeremy Gardner is going to be contender for that title for sure. So it's going to be an all-out, battle. And but we're going to make the most of it, have a lot of fun with it, and see if we can't get this, like I said, this Jam Pringham Promotion Chevy, into victory lane next week, and then go after that title in Darlington.
An all-out battle is the perfect way to describe this. After being with you guys for a good portion of the last half of this season, it's been nothing short of that week after week. But Patrick, is there anybody you'd like to say thanks to for your success here to put you on the podium tonight?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I've said it a few different times, but Jam Printing Promotions does a phenomenal job with us. If you're wearing anything Goat Locker, if you got T-shirts, hoodies, we just ordered a whole bunch of hoodies for the entire league. Jam Printing Promotions has been taking care of us for years and years and years. And the Veterans for Life Foundation and everything that they're not only doing for veterans all across our great nation, but coming on board here a couple years ago and really supporting us and helping out. They sponsor a lot of drivers within the series as well. So I can't say thanks enough to them. Hidden Wit Brewery on Tuesdays. Cruising Classics and Nasties on Wednesdays. InVets on Sundays. I have a big meeting with them on Monday. So some big things are going to come out of that. Some more sponsorship and even bigger stuff moving into next year. The Indiana Department of Veterans Affairs and the gracious grant they gave us as a nonprofit. I do want to say that we have done 5 complete racing simulators this year. We're getting ready to do one more in the month of December, which is absolutely phenomenal, which will mean we will giving out over $20,000 worth of equipment to veterans this year, which is just absolutely amazing. And we couldn't do it without all of our partners like Lincoln Tech as well. All of our broadcast partners, V-Speed does such an amazing job. I can't say, enough about Eddie Smith and the whole team at V-Speed. Not only Goat Talk, but Tuesdays and Fridays is phenomenal. NASA 360, Maconi Entertainment. I think I got them all. Maybe I got them all. I don't know. You'd think as the owner of this whole thing, I would get them all, but I get lost in it all. But man, what an epic battle! Congratulations to Jeremy Gardner. What such fun battling there with Craig and Levi as well. What an amazing group of guys to come out here and race with. So yeah, I think that's everything.
You know, I have to say, I think you did hit them all, but there's a lot of hands in this pot. So
Yes, sir.
congratulations, Patrick. And we will surely be talking to you probably next week and the week after.
Sounds like a plan.
Good luck, buddy. We'll see you. And we'll take it right back to Alec Martinez, who's following up with Craig Bontrager, our third place finisher here tonight.
Yes, sir. Craig, Alec, and Logan in the VC booth. You got a comment, buddy?
I do.
Well, man, you had a solid race going on there between yourself, Jeremy Gardner, Jacob Ellingson at the beginning, and then Patrick Drabick. And it looked like you did everything. You looked like you could do everything that you could. But nonetheless, come up with third and now have to focus on Richmond. But how was the night tonight, and how do you feel about it in terms of getting to the championship round?
I can't complain, right? I was definitely faster here than I thought I was going to be. We led a good chunk of laps. We're running with two of the best in the business right there at the end. So, so hard to beat. These guys still looking for that first GLR win, and made a mistake, got myself out of position, and it's so tough in this series. And everybody's so strong. It's, but third place result, that's a good lead going into Richmond. I don't have the bonus points that some of these guys do, so I definitely need to run well at Richmond. I like that place. I think it's going to be a great place to close out the round of 8. But satisfied with tonight for sure.
For sure. And how do you feel next week? Obviously, a third place finisher tonight. If you win it next week, you're obviously in automatically. But even in terms of points, how do you feel about going out to Richmond and just trying to point your way into that championship round?
It's at least it's a possibility because of tonight, right? So I definitely feel like that's a nice cushion. Obviously, shoot to win here, but we got a nice cushion going into it.
For sure. Well, we appreciate your time, Craig. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to here tonight for tonight's run?
Absolutely. Goat Locker Racing for sure. Everything that this league does. If you've got disposable income, you're looking for a place to put it to do some good. Go to Goat Locker Racing's website, smash that donate button. We've got to thank our sponsors, Lincoln Tech for being the full fall series sponsor, Hidden Wit Brewery, Cruising Classics, Nasty's Restaurant and Bar, Veterans for Life Foundation, Veterans for Life Racing, InVets, Jam Printing and Promotions, McConey Setup Shop, V-Speed. You guys do a great job. Got a shout out to Indiana Department of Affairs, Alexander PCs, Sim Motion, iRacing, Above the Yellow Line. Thanks, everybody.
For sure. Well, we appreciate your time, Craig. And again, congratulations on third, and we'll see you next week out at Richmond Raceway.
We will do. See you next week.
All right, we'll see you next week. Thank you, Craig. And that's our third place finisher, Craig Bontrager. And of course, we'll forgot to do it during the race, but we'll do it before we close. And that is this week's veteran spotlight, and that is Chuck Phelps. The veteran spotlight is our resident Marine, Chuck Phelps, and Chuck served a total of 21 years, 10 months, and 22 days. 13 of those years in the United States Marine Corps, and 8 of those years in the Army National Guard. Chuck has deployed multiple times in support of Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and Operation Enduring Freedom. And Chuck's duty stations have included Camp Pendleton, California, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, Okinawa, Japan, and Norway. We love having Chuck as a member here at Goat Locker Racing. Semper Fi Marine, we appreciate you, Chuck, and thank you for all that you've done for our country. We appreciate that you race here, and just know that we are never going to ever mess with you, ever, because that's not a good idea. So
Absolutely not. Have you seen that guy's arms?
No, that is not it. And, well, we appreciate it. We'll bring you back in here into the broadcast booth one more time, Logan. And what a race we saw, kind of just all over the place. We thought Jacob Ellingson for a time, and we thought Craig Bontrager, and then just got Drabick, and then it went to Gardner there at the end, and we got ourselves a wild battle to see who those other 3 drivers to be the championship for are going to be in at Richmond next week.
Absolutely. Richmond, after watching this, it's going to just be one of the most amazing races that we'll probably see all season long. I'm really looking forward to being here next week with it for you. And, man, this championship battle, it's nothing short
of an amazing battle. That
And
is 100% facts.
It's going to be fun to watch these guys go at it on a short track Friday night under the lights at Richmond Raceway, in which we'll see you next week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time next Friday for the Richmond Raceway race and the cutoff race of the round of 8 to see who punches their ticket into the championship. This has been the Veterans for Life Racing Truck Series here at Goat Locker. For everybody, from Patrick Dravitt, Jimmy Marcus, and everyone at Goat Locker Racing, for Adam Baker and Bradley Cooper at V-Speed, our producer Eddie Smith, and my colleague in the booth tonight, Logan Thurkel. Logan, we appreciate you being here. Eddie, appreciate you doing what you do. And my name is Alec Martinez. Thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the broadcast. And if you're not subscribed, please do and get updates for all of the races that come up on V-Speed. Until then, we'll see you next week from the Richmond Raceway.